Before we get into the video, I still have some more codes to give away for the Astronaut Ivern skin and exclusive green chroma. For a chance to win one of these, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment the keyword Ivern in the comment section below. Best of luck in the giveaway and enjoy the video. This is going to be my support tier list for patch 13.7. As always, on the screen already, I have in order every champion from last patch in order of win rate. So starting at the top, 54% win rate is broken, 52 to 53 strong, 50 to 51 is average, so on and so forth. Also worth mentioning, because a lot of people were kind of chirping me on Twitter about how win rate is not everything when it comes to a tier list. And I just want to say I 1000% agree with you guys who say that. And throughout this video, I'll be kind of making comments and kind of explaining how some of these champions being higher or lower isn't 100% accurate. So we will get there eventually. Don't just take a screenshot of this and assume that this is my final tier list for this patch. We're going to be moving things around, not only after looking at what the changes are, but also kind of commenting on some other factors that might impact how strong a champion actually is. So jumping into the patch notes here, I'm only going to be looking at changes for the support as always. There's 3 changes to support to this patch. In the past few patches, there's been some clear, obvious, really strong champions in the meta, and they haven't really been targeting those champions. So like Annie and Rakan, for example, are 2 champions that I've been abusing for a few patches now, and I kept saying, you know, the nerfs are inevitable. They're coming eventually. And they haven't quite come yet until this patch. Annie is finally going to be getting touched on. She's the only one that has a 54% win rate, so that's very much deserved. But let's get into it now. We're actually going to start with Alistar here. So Alistar is in a very unique situation because this season we're kind of shifting into a tank meta. So as you can see here at the top, Taric, Rel, Rakan's not really a tank, but he's engaged. Blitzcrank, Maokai is a tank support these days. Thresh, a lot of the tanks are really strong right now compared to the enchanters, who, you know, Nami and Lulu were dominating the meta, and Yuumi were dominating the meta for a really long time, and now they're down here while the tanks are up here. But Alistar, out of all of the tanks in this role, is down here at, let's see, a 50.76% win rate, which is not terrible, but compared to other tank supports, he's just kind of outclassed. So this buff here is supposed to try to help keep him up to date with the other tank supports in the game. It doesn't look like much, just a buff as far as 3 armor as well as 15 health. And these numbers look small, but they actually can make a pretty big difference. Still, I think his kit is a little outdated. It just can't quite keep up with some of the newer champions. You know, Taric got an update, Rel's a newer champion, Thresh has an overloaded kit, and his kit is just a little too simple. So I think these buffs will help. I think it'll get him up to that like 51% win rate or so. But I think he'll be kind of in the same tier as Nautilus. So if Nautilus is sitting here currently at a 51.05% win rate in D2+, I think you can expect Alistar to be kind of in that same tier. I would love for him to get bumped up to here to be like low 52. But I think he's just too simple. His kit is just not up to date enough. So this is nice. It's going to help him be a little bit tankier, but I think he's going to be slotted in right here, kind of next to Nautilus. Up next is those Annie nerfs that I was talking about. And if you scroll up here, it shows the icon that they're trying to nerf, and it says mid lane. But in reality, as you see here, she's been burning her enemies in the bot lane with her updated Molten Shield. So they're aware that she's kind of broken as a support as well. These changes, however, don't seem to be all too bad. They're going to be hitting the cooldown a little bit. So early, it's going to be the same, 12 and 12. But then little by little, 11 to 11 and a half. 10 to 11, 9 to 10 and a half, and then 8 to 10. So you can't spam this as much. And then on top of that, the shield itself is going to be weaker. So can't spam it as much. And when you do use this ability, it's not going to be as strong. However, Annie support, in my opinion, is really, really good because she's pretty diverse. You can spam your shield and kind of sit back and play her as an enchanter because the shield was a really large shield, as well as giving movement speed and also being on a really low cooldown. So you can kind of just buff up your carry if you have like a hyper carry like Jinx or Zeri. It worked really, really well. But since she's still Annie at the end of the day, she still has that really simple kit and easy ability to engage on the enemy. So she was really diverse in that sense that you could play her more as a backline and buff up your teammates, but you could also have that ability to flash in and make plays. And if her damage is untouched and her other abilities are untouched, and you can still make those plays, and if your E is still strong enough that you can still play her as a support and be able to play her on a hyper carry, I think she's going to be in an okay spot. Obviously, before she was sitting at 54.67% win rate in D2 plus. So I think this is going to take her out of broken. I don't think we'll see any champions next patch that are going to be in this 54% or higher win rate, which I think is just a clear sign that a champion is overloaded. So in a perfect world, in a world where champions are actually balanced, nobody's up here, I think it'll drop her down. I think she'll still be good though. I think Rakan's really strong. I can see her slotting in right around here. I still think, as far as enchanters go, as you see, enchanters are kind of down here in the meta, and Annie isn't like your stereotypical enchanter support, but with her E being strong enough to play around ADC, she can play as an enchanter. I still think she's going to outclass a lot of the other enchanters. So Sona's the highest enchanter here on the list. I'll go ahead and slot Annie in around here. I think she'll still be good around that 52, maybe 53% win rate. And if you are playing Annie correctly and you're not just sitting back all the time and using your shield, but you're also playing her up and looking for engages, I still think you'll be able to make her work as a support fairly well. So a little bit of a nerf there, but not as bad as I would have expected it to be. And then the last change here, they call this an adjustment, which for some reason that every time they touch Thresh, they called it an adjustment instead of a buff or a nerf, because a few patches ago they super omega buffed him and they called it an adjustment. This is a pretty clear and obvious nerf. They're calling it an adjustment again, but whatever. So this here is just a change to his Q because it's pretty much been on like 0 cooldown. You see here cooldown refunded on hit from 3 seconds to 2. Even though it was 3, it didn't feel like 3. It's like as soon as your hook would land and you're kind of tugging on them for that second or two, as soon as that chain like breaks off of them, it was pretty much right back up. So it was really, really insane. And now they're going to go ahead and lower it to, oh wait, let's see, cooldown refunded on hit from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. Okay, so it's just kind of worded in a strange way because it looks like it's getting lowered, but in reality, the way that they're phrasing this is before when you landed your Q, you would get 3 seconds off of your cooldown. Now you're only getting 2 seconds off of the cooldown. So it's phrased a little weird, but this is an overall nerf, even though if you look at the way it's worded, it might seem weird at first. Overall, still though, it's going to be a second difference. The champion is still really, really strong, still has a really good kit. Yes, you're not going to be throwing Qs as often, but I think that 1 second difference is going to make a huge difference. I'm going to go ahead and maybe just move him down a little bit. Currently, he's sitting at 52.3% win rate and Bard's sitting at 52. I still think Thresh is going to be stronger than like these top tier enchanters here in Jan and Soraka. Very small change here, just going to swap him with Bard. And honestly, that might not even be the case. That order might still stay the exact same because I don't think this is going to hurt him all too much. But just to account for something, we'll go ahead and do that. And this is kind of where I see things wrapping up as far as win rates next patch. Again, as I said at the start of this video, there are some champions here that are a little bit misleading. So just to go down the list here a little bit, Taric is a champion, and Rel that are two champions that I honestly feel are really, really strong, but they're only sitting at a 1.5% pick rate. So just a very small sample size there means that you can't always take that data all too seriously. So take that into account when looking at Taric and Rel. Senna, however, 53.46% win rate with a really high pick rate at 8.55. So she's getting played a lot and winning a lot. I personally think she's in a good spot. Rakan's going to continue to be in a good spot. Blitzcrank, same thing there. Vel'Koz is a champion that I'll go ahead and point out because he's at a 1.51% pick rate. So, err on the side of caution with that. There's a lot of one tricks who play that champion that kind of boost up his win rate there. Zyra sitting at a 2% pick rate, not super high, but decent enough. Maokai's pretty low, and I think a lot of people are still adjusting to the fact that if you are going to play him as a support, you have to play him more as a tank now rather than AP. So those are the champions that I would be a little cautious about as far as how strong they actually are. Don't look at this and say, oh my god, Taric's the strongest champion in the game, I'm going to spam him and get free LP. Because yes, I do think he's very strong, but there's not a whole lot of games to support that win rate. So take that keep that in mind. As far as the rest of this list goes, that all seems, pretty fine to me. Overall, I would just say like my top champions that have a high enough pick rate to support them being strong this patch. Senna, Rakan, Blitzcrank, I think Annie's still going to be fine. Maybe like Sona, Bard, and Thresh. I still think enchanters are a little outdated, but Janna and Soraka, if you are going to play enchanters right now, seem to be two of the strongest picks there. So that's going to do it for this tier list, support tier list for patch 13.7. As always, if you guys went on to enjoy this video or found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. That'll do it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.